For the last 30 years, I came in a relationship with God, in a relationship with Jesus when I was 15, 16 years old. So the last 30 plus years, I have been making decisions based on the future. I've been future focused in my decisions, meaning I decide things that are going to impact my future. Not just like the next week or the next year or the next decade, but like my lifetime, beyond, even beyond the grave. And I want to encourage you today to think about the future, to plan and be future focused. Man, we've had some new people come to church in this series. We've been trying to get ourselves outside of the grind of just looking at what's in front of me today and try to expand our vision and see something way, way bigger and way beyond and way longer than we ever thought it could be, the scope of eternity. And some friends, we brought some friends last weekend, and my gosh, last week for Hell Week. That's a tough starter week, Hell Week. Whew! Jeez, this week is going to be not quite as painful, but yet a bit intense, because I don't know if you've heard it or not, but the death rate is hovering right around 100%. You will die. I will die. I hope that's not a shocker to you. We just would prefer not to think about it. Your future doesn't just include the next week, the next quarter, the next decade. Your future includes what happens when you die. What does happen? The Bible says that God has set eternity in our hearts. There's very few people in the very roughest part of life who believe all they're going to be is worm food. And all over the world, in all different time periods, and all different religions and spiritualities, again and again and again, in human hearts is the desire and belief and longing for something that is beyond the grave. I know that's in you. You may have your doubts, you may have your struggles, but I know that's in you. It's why you would come to a place like this or engage in a place like this right now. And the more you can focus on that, believe it or not, the more your life is going to make sense. You can have a worldly focus on things in the world right now, my current job, my current relationships, my current health, and you should have an appropriate focus on those things. But you can be about the world and all the things that are only here, or you can also think about eternity. You can have an eternity focus. You can have a focus on stuff that will not end. At a Roman triumph, which is when they would honor the great generals of Rome or the emperor, they would put him on a cart and they would take him through the streets, and all the citizens would come out and throw roses and sing praise and all that stuff, and they would have somebody right behind him in the chariot who would say, "Remember you're going to die. Remember you're going to die. Remember you're going to die." Because in the midst of all that adulation, he needed to stay grounded. It's what's called memento mori. Memento mori is a Latin phrase, which is the practice of reflecting on your death. Now, I don't know if you've done this much. I don't think you have, because we don't want to reflect on something that is so far off and maybe negative. It doesn't have to be negative, but maybe negative. In fact, some of us right now are going, we're talking about death. I don't want to talk about that. We don't want to hear anything that does remind us that we are mortal. We're mortal. There's different philosophies in our world, and today in our current climate, philosophy is generally practiced in such a way as to tear down belief structures in other people. Philosophy is meant to, sow seeds of doubt in somebody else's perspective. And that's really not what philosophy is. The ancient form of philosophy really was finding a mental set of values that would work for you in your life. It was finding an awareness of how you were going to structure and interact with the world that would help you make a life that works. One such example is Stoicism. We know very little about the Stoics. We call somebody who has no emotions a Stoic, but Stoicism as a philosophy goes far, far beyond that. It doesn't even include not having emotions. It really requires some thoughtfulness in order to have a level of joy. And one of the tenets in Stoicism, believe it or not, is the ability to reflect on your death, to reflect on the fact that you will die. Here's actually how a website devoted to Stoicism puts it. Meditating on your mortality is only depressing if you miss the point. It is, in fact, a tool to create priority and meaning. It's a tool that generations have used to create real perspective and urgency, to treat our time as a gift and not waste it on the trivial and vain. Death doesn't make life pointless, but rather purposeful. It's not about, I die and, oh no, my life has meant nothing, I'm so afraid of it. It's about saying, okay, I've got certain number of days in this form right now. I need to leverage them, grab them, wring them out, and make them work for my future. This is what Jesus did. This is what he said. Jesus said, pick up your cross and follow me daily. Now in America, we don't even know that Jesus said those words. It was him who said, we all have our cross to bear. We say that as Americans, right? We all have our cross to bear. And it kind of means we all got problems, always have problems. Like I got my bad back, that's my cross to bear. I mean, you got your warts on your face and you got your mother-in-law. I mean, we all have something that is not good and we all have our cross to bear. But that's not what Jesus meant when he said, pick up your cross and follow me daily. He meant you and I should be willing to die. We should embrace the idea of death. We should be willing to die at a moment's notice. In fact, if we die for the right reason and in the right way at the right time, and if it's in service to God, oh my goodness, there could actually be great news for that. So he said, you should embrace death for the right reasons to such extreme, carry your cross around. Don't fear death. I don't fear death. I have zero fears of death whatsoever. It's because I've been future focused, I've been eternity focused for decades, and I know where I'm going. And I'm looking forward to it. And not only that, I'm laying up some really cool stuff that's going to be waiting for me when I get there. That's what we're going to look at the rest of our time today. But we've got to recognize that if we don't reconcile that we are mortals, that we remember that we will die, we're not going to squeeze all that we can out of this life and in the eternity that waits for us. Not the greatest philosopher that America's ever produced, but he is known as in some circles, as the greatest thinker that America has ever produced. His name is Jonathan Edwards. He was the president at Princeton way back in the 1700s. And he was also a pastor. And he would write things down that would keep him future focused, way off in the future beyond the point where he died. And he called these resolutions. And he did about 100 of them. As he went through his life, he would kind of, oh, this is a new resolution I'm going to make. And let me read you a few of them. They're pretty insightful. Resolved to live with all my might while I do live. That's a good man. Yeah, while I'm living, I'm going to squeeze and wring everything I can out of life. Resolved that I will live so as I shall wish I had done when I come to die. No regrets. So when I'm dead, I'm glad that I made the choices I made. Resolved never to do anything which I should be afraid to do if it were the last hour of my life. Resolved, I will act so as I think I shall judge would have been best and most prudent when I come into the future world. When I come into heaven, I want to do things now that when I'm there, I'm going, that was a good call. That was a good decision. Resolved to endeavor to obtain for myself as much happiness in the other world as I possibly can with all the power, might, vigor, and vehemence, yea, violence, I am capable of or can bring myself to exert in any way that can be thought of. So I want happiness. I want as much treasure, and as much good stuff as possible when I die. And I will do everything I can to have that level of joy and that level of hedonism, if you will, when I die. So much so, I'm going to grab it violently. And he's not talking about mass shootings here. There wasn't mass shootings back in the 1700s. Well, that's the only way we view the word violence. He's just saying, man, I am like, I'm resolved on this. I'm looking for it in the future. I'm making plans and I'm doing things. That's what you do when you're future focused. Resolved constantly with the utmost niceness and diligence and the strictest scrutiny to be looking into the state of my soul, that I may know whether I have truly an interest in Christ or no. That when I come to die, I may not have any negligence respecting this to repent of. To live with spiritual sobriety, whether or not I actually love Jesus, love God, or not. Now, this moment is going to come immediately for some of us. Like some of us, a bus has your name on it this week? I hope not, but if you said that in the whole world, it would be for somebody. I mean, some of us, there's an unexpected death that come at any moment. And I'm not trying to freak you out. I'm just going, hey, it's called life. If we want to just ignore that, no, there's unexpected deaths that happen all the time. So some of us are going to have a death this year, this decade, whenever, and we're going to go before God, and we're going to have an interaction with us. Others of us, maybe not others of us, at some point in human history, might be this point in human history, or future points in human history, some point in human history, there will be another way. People who are alive, and God will say, that's it, I'm done with the current plan, I'm done with the way the world is operating right now, we're going to have Judgment Day right now. So you will have Judgment Day when you die, or there will be some apocalyptic, cataclysmic Judgment Day where people who are on earth will actually immediately be judged by God. This is what Jesus talks about in the book of Matthew 24. He says, stay awake, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming. But know this, that if the master of the house had known in what part of the night the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and would not have let his house be broken into. Therefore, you also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming in an hour you do not expect. Now, this is referring to the second coming of Christ. This is big heady stuff. This is freaky stuff. If there is a God, we should expect freaky stuff to be there every once in a while. If there isn't freaky stuff, then there's really no God, or there's really no point. This is one of those freaky things. Like, okay, there will be a return, and like, okay, right now we're getting down to brass tacks. We're gonna start judgment right now. So this idea of the second coming is all throughout the Bible, and various followers of Christ have various convictions over whether or not they believe it or not. A Pew Research poll that I saw a number of years ago shows about 50% of people who sit in church pews believe that, okay, yeah, I actually believe that could happen. 50%. Now, 50% said inside the next 40 years. Now, if you believed, you knew that was going to happen the next 40 years, or you knew that you were going to die inside the next 40 years, which I do know. I hate to be negative. I do know at 52 I'm probably going to die in the next 40 years. That would affect the way you live now, or at least it should. If it doesn't affect the way we live now, then we're not future focused. We're not doing things now in such a way to be blessed and benefit by something in the future. Now, a lot of this end time stuff, I personally really disconnect with. Like my least favorite series of books that was ever written, and I think, I'm not for book burning, but if I was for book burning, I would burn these. It would be the Left Behind series. Awful. Utterly, I can't say if the whole series is awful. I made about 3 pages. It's just awful. And what's awful about it for me is how many people have a belief structure that says, man, this world is going to hell in a handbasket. I just need to be raptured and sucked out of this earth and just like leave this whole place behind. That's the whole thing. And I don't want to be left behind. And we say, like, this world isn't my home. I just need to, like, evacuate because these people annoy me and this planet annoys me and all that kind of stuff. And I say that, I'm sorry, this planet is your home. It is your home. It was created for you. It was created by God. And you will inhabit this earth forever and ever. This earth is heaven. This earth is part of God's plan. What, do you think God's going to create something? And then all of a sudden, like, oh, I guess I lost that one. Let's do something else over here. Does he do that with you? Do you have problems in your life? And God goes, oh, forget you. Let's go on to Betty over here. Let's hang out with Betty. Oh, you forget you, Ted. Let's go to... No, he redeems. He restores. And this is what he's doing in this planet, in this world. He wants to redeem. He wants to restore. And he wants you and I to be engaged in that work. So any philosophy that says, I'm just going to be evacuated out of here while this world goes to hell in the handbasket and I go up in the clouds and I eat blueberry pie in the by and by is utterly foreign to anything Jesus would have believed. Utterly foreign to anything that he would have said. At least the one thing about that whole philosophy, by the way, that philosophy, that theology, is based on one verse in the Bible, which based on the original Greek grammar could read a couple different ways. Smarter people than me believe in the rapture. Great, fine, you don't believe that, fine. What you can't believe in is you just evacuate this world and you just hunker down and you wait till you die and then life starts good. No, that's stupid. That's stupid and unbiblical. Just a bad, bad way to view life. It doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. Our problem for so many of us is we have a hard time looking to the future. We think that we have to look to the past to find the answers in ourselves. We don't know how to plan for the future. We don't know how to understand the future. We just look in the past all the time. We're not comfortable with looking forward to the future, either death in the future or life after death. We'd rather go in the past. We have problems. So where do we think the problems lie? The answers lie? The answers lie in our past. So we go to a counselor. And we say, man, I'm not feeling good. So I'm going to say, okay, well, tell me about your last year. What's going to happen in your last year? And you tell them, and they go, interesting. Tell me about college. What happened in college? Take me back there. And you tell them, and they go, fascinating. High school. Let's go back to high school. Tell me about and you tell them, and they go, interesting. Let's go back to grade school. Okay, and grade school, and they go, okay. And you take them. Let's go back to the womb. When you were in the womb, was it ever like colder than 98.6 degrees or anything? And I'm pro counseling. I think there is good reason to look into our past that tells us something about today. But the problem is, your answers for the future will never be found in your past. Your answers to who you are, your answers to who you are even right now, are not in your human past. Your future gets on a different track, and we are so comfortable with navel gazing and looking back and going back, and we've lost the ability, or we've never developed the ability to be future focused, to look at the future. This was so clear to me in the journey I've been on the last year or so, last many, many years. I was born at a very young age, if you didn't know that. And I was adopted at birth. And my parents, great parents, so thankful for them. They've been wonderful. And my parents, whenever I looked at my parents, I knew that my DNA was not in them and their DNA was not in me, which is very obviously different on a variety of levels. My dad is shorter than I am, big, huge head, ears stick out like this. I got a smaller head, my ears are in here, and my head's smaller because I have a smaller brain. I'm not as smart as him. He's a nuclear scientist. I'm not. My mom just picked up like keyed instruments perfectly and beautifully. Piano frustrated me. My mom was a valedictorian in college. I wasn't. Their outlook, everything was just, and I knew growing up I was adopted, and it was an honorable thing, and so I would, I realized, well, if I don't see myself in them, it's okay because, I'm adopted. But sometimes it would really bother me. I've always liked tobacco in various forms. And so I remember when I was 14, 15 years old, I bought a cigar for my dad. I thought, this is going to be really good for him. I went out it was probably a crappy cigar. I'm sure it was a crappy cigar. But it was a big cigar. So I bought this big cigar. It was kind of an act of love. Like, here, Dad, I'm going to give you a cigar. So I remember giving him that cigar. And in hindsight, that was really stupid. My dad hates tobacco. Can't stand it. Like, why would I think that'd be cool for him? I don't know. But I thought it would. So I put it on his dresser. And as the weeks, months, and years went on, I would see that thing just get drier and drier and drier. And every time I saw that, I was reminded, yeah, me and my dad were really different. He's really not me. I'm really not him. Then I went on a journey a couple years ago, on the Brave journey that we did at Crossroads, and I said the heading that I wanted to do is find my birth parents. And I mentioned a while ago, I actually got with my birth mother several months ago, sat down with her and found out amazing stuff. She's a believer. She's been praying for me for 50 years. She's a part of a church with different sites and video venues in another city. Just really cool. But at the same time, I was sitting there looking at her. I'm going like, I don't see me and you. We have this faith together. It's awesome, but the values she has, the choices. I don't mean values like Christian values. I just mean like choices she makes and what's important to her and what's not important to her. Not me at all. Like not even close. I left there going, all right, I'm glad I met her, good woman, but like I'm not really finding anything out about myself. I'm not seeing it. And what do you know? 2 weeks ago, I got to get with my birth father for the first time. The guy who fathered me. He and my birth mother were in the Air Force in California, and that's when they had a little thing going for a while, and I got to go with them. And I'm like, okay, this is it, man. I'm going to get with my birth dad, and it's going to click in terms of who I am. And I sat down, looking at him, going, talking with him, looking at his mannerisms. And after I spent time with him, Lib came over and sat with us, and like talking afterwards, like nothing, like doesn't look like me. Entirely different worldview, entirely different choice he's made with his life that I would never make. Good guy. Gonna keep in touch with him. I liked him. It was really good, but entirely different. And I came away, it was like this crisis. Like, who the heck am I? Like, I'm not in these parents here. I'm not. Well, who am I? And I realized, like, well, duh. I'm trying to look into the past to find out who I am. That's a stupid idea. I am a son of God. I'm a son of God. God's been doing something to me in my future that stands outside whoever raised me or whoever fathered me. And that's the same it is with you. God, you are a unique creation of God. And I can't expect the hidden keys to why Brian's home is the way he is to find them in another human being. I find them in my relationship with God. I find them in the way he's choosing to form me and put me forward. Many of us can't get there because we think the key to our future is our past. It is not. The key to your future is Jesus. That's the key to your future. The key to your future is getting out of the worldly perspectives that bring death and life to people emotionally and spiritually here in our world. And when you look to the future, you start making decisions that are different from people's and bring you different rewards. My future decision when I was first walked with Christ said, okay, I'm not going to have sex with any woman until I'm married to her. And by the grace of God, and I do mean the grace of God, that happened. I've only had sex with one woman my whole life. It's my wife. And I'll tell you, all the people who criticize me for, all they could see in their worldly values was you have to have feeling, you have to have an orgasm, in this context, you have to feel with this, this is worldly focus, like immediate pleasure right here. And I was like, man, I'm focused on a different pleasure way out there. And all those folks who criticized me way back when, I wouldn't take any of their marriages, or their third marriage for that matter. Wouldn't take a single one of them. It's focusing on something and putting your life to it where new rewards are. There was all kind of people in Pittsburgh. Like, you can't go to Cincinnati, no way. You can't leave like all your friends and all this extended family all over. You can't stay here. I was future focused. So glad we did. So glad we came here looking at a future and beyond that. People ask me, okay, well, Cincinnati, what about other places? You must have some pretty tempting job offers. I don't get that many. I get some. The last one came with some rich church way out in California that, wanted to talk to me. I was like, I'm not interested. Didn't want to talk. Definitely not going to ask them what the salary is. Didn't need any new temptations there, right? So I was like, the people were like, oh, but California, Cincinnati, I feel like I can have a bigger impact on the future just continuing doing what I'm doing now than picking up roots and going someplace else. I'm not about having the most comfortable, perfect weather life I can for the next decade or couple decades of my work life. I'm like beyond that. What has the largest impact in my future and in the world's future that I can possibly do? My giving levels are the way they are because I'm looking at something beyond where I believe there's unique rewards. Our family right now is looking at we're looking to move. We're looking to move because I want to get my in-laws in with me who can't really kind of make it around my house as easily. We want to get into a house where my in-laws can come in and live with us and different stuff. And it's totally a pain in the butt right now to go through that whole process. But it's a future-focused thing of this can get me to a new place and maybe get the purposes of God to a new place. And you know what? God would say this for you, not just in your sex life while on earth, not just your financial life on earth, not just the house you buy here on earth. He would say this about the decisions you and I make for what we're going to have when we die. See, our world believes in karma, which is you get back whatever you put into it. Karma. There's something truth to that. The Bible will call that reap what you sow. There is something when you do, you get it back to you. But your place in eternity is not based on what you do. Your place in eternity, heaven or hell, is based on what Jesus has done. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like all the justice that I deserve went on his back on the cross, all of it. So God, I never have to be concerned with God having a bad hair day with me. Because all that stuff, all that justice that went on Jesus, it's amazing, man. It's called grace. Amazing grace. Crazy, crazy, crazy. So there's not this karma thing in terms of determining where I go when I die. There's grace. There's grace. Now, that grace, once I receive Jesus, once I get to heaven, or that once I know that's my future, that's my eternal future, then there are unique rewards and awards based on my decisions here on this earth. My decisions here on this earth are not pass, fail, whether or not God likes me or not. Understand, God likes me, loves me based on what Jesus has done for me. But the things I get to experience, the things I get to do, maybe the things I get to own in heaven are directly proportional to the way I live now. Let me give you some examples of this. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, 12 to 15. Now, if anyone builds on the foundation with gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, straw, each one's work will become manifest. For the day will disclose it. The capital D day, the judgment day, will disclose it. Because it will be revealed by fire. And the fire will test what sort of work each one has done. If the work that anyone has built on the foundation survives, that's the foundation of Jesus, survives, he will receive a reward. If anyone's work is burned up, he will suffer loss, though he himself will be saved, but only as through the fire. It says here that there's things that you and I do once we come to faith, as we build our life on that foundation, there's things that we do that are like rock solid granite, like poof, there it is. That's a great decision. That's a good poof. And there's other things that we decide that go up really, really quickly and easily, give us a nice, big, cool-looking life, but it's made out of straw and stubble and wood. It goes up quick. In the end, there will be judgment. It will be a fire. This fire will destroy everything that's impure in our lives. And what's left, that determines what our reward is. So some people have maybe get baptized, and that's happened, and there's virtually no other way that they serve Christ. There's no way that they're kind of pushing forward an award. And so when they get to heaven, according to this verse, what happens is the fire comes and like burns up virtually all their life. Like house gone, everything gone, their job gone, job is all about them gone, their clothes gone, burns everything, like burns their pubes. Everything is gone. Whoo, whoo. They're going in, I got nothing. I don't know why I said that word. It's a fun word, though. It is. It truly is. But they get in, according to this word, they get in but everything is gone. Everything is gone. Now, anybody who gets into heaven loves that place, has utter joy. There's no jealousy there. It's amazing, amazing, amazing. But some, when we get there, there's just not going to be a lot there waiting for us. Others have unique treasures that are there. Treasures, why do I say treasures? Because Jesus says that. Matthew 6:20, store up for yourself treasures in heaven. What else would he mean? Store up for yourself. You can store up and put on layaway ahead of you things you're going to enjoy. Multiple things, treasures, where moth and rust do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. I can treasure my truck. I love my truck. I think God has found me having my truck, but if I'm treasuring my truck, it's rusting right now. It's oxidizing right now as I stand here. Doesn't matter how nice our clothes are, it's all going to be eaten away, but there's things you store up that will be there forever. There's so many things in the past I'm thankful for today. I'm thankful for my friendships I built in the past that helped me with my pains of today. I'm thankful for just people who gave me knowledge in the past that have helped me make right decisions today. There are so many things that have blessed me today. And I believe you can do things today that will affect your future. I believe that anybody who brought back a Thanksgiving food drive box, maybe something positive will happen for you this week, maybe this month. If not, I believe that there is some kind of award that's waiting for you in heaven for somebody who said, I'm going to allow somebody who wouldn't normally have an exorbitant meal at Thanksgiving, I'm going to allow that person to have an amazing meal. And I believe there's an reward for that. I believe there's a reward. I believe that's a way to lay up treasure. Jesus loved kids, loved them. He was always bringing kids around him, and other people didn't understand why that was. He said, man, bless the children. He says, this is wonderful. And I believe people who serve our kids at Crossroads in Kids Club are storing up unique rewards and treasures for them in the future. I believe that if you go to your neighbor who you know is lonely and you know may not have a place to have Thanksgiving this year, and you knock on their door and invite them over to Thanksgiving meal, I believe God goes, that's my boy right there. That's my boy. And I believe not only is God proud of you, but I believe God is wanting to reward you. See, we see over and over in the Bible that God basically is a spiritual capitalist. He's not a spiritual socialist. Socialism, everyone should make the same, right? Spiritual socialism means everyone who gets to heaven, exactly the same. Everyone goes to not the place, or everyone, the whole thing. I mean, we basically are spiritually socialists, many of us. And you got to understand, God is not that. The reason why he says store up treasures is he's trying to incentivize us to be future focused and serve him in such a way as to know there's prizes there because he knows we're motivated. The problem isn't that you and I are hedonists. The problem is our hedonism only sees forward about 2 weeks or 2 years. We need to get our hedonism muscles cranking for us that maybe start 30 years in the future, but go on forever and ever. He gives another story of the minas and talents. Jesus says 2 different times. God says God gives to people based on how faithful they are. And he says, this person has been really faithful. Well done, good and faithful servant. I'm going to set you up over 10 cities. What does that mean, set you up over 10 cities? Maybe there's leadership responsibility in heaven. And those who are leaders are those who have followed really well here. Jesus says in Luke 6:22, blessed are you when people hate you, and when they exclude you, and when they revile you, and spurn your name as evil on account of the Son of Man. Rejoice in that day, and leap for joy, for behold, your reward in heaven is great. So, when the world applauds you, yes, I love your choices, yes, yes, yes. When the world applauds the way you're living just like the world who's focused on the present and the past. But when you focus on God, sometimes there's heartache that come with that. And when that comes, Jesus says, man, there's new rewards coming for you because you're living the right way. Key West used to be one of my favorite places. It's not any longer. I went to Key West back when Key West was Key West, back in the mid-'80s. That's when stuff was real. It was awesome. It was amazing. You go to Key West now, it's just like Myrtle Beach South. It's really no big deal at all. When we were going in college, every year after Christmas, we would go down. This was right at the height when Mel Fisher was making a lot of waves. No pun intended. He was a searcher for treasure, specifically the Etosha. The ship called the Etosha, a Spanish galleon ship that had mysteriously disappeared in 1622, that had all kinds of gold, apparently, all kinds of jewelry, and he devoted his life to the future of finding that ship. And people thought he was crazy. They thought he was an idiot. They thought he was wasting his time. And he would get his family, and they would fill up their tanks, and he would have a sign over top of a door as they would head out, and that sign would say, today's the day. That sign would say, so every day they would say, today's the day we find it, today's the day we find it. They had all kinds of heartache and all kinds of criticism, but what do you know? July 22nd, 1985, they got it. That was the day. $400 million worth of treasure they recovered. $400 million. Because every day he said, this could be the day, for my future is today. And this is why the Bible talks so much about the day of the Lord. The day. You and I have to start believing that today could be my day. Not like fear. Maybe if today's your day, you would go golfing. Maybe you would. God's out for pleasure. He tells us to take a day off. This isn't supposed to mean that we're supposed to be totally anal and angry and upset about everything all the time. But it means that today could be the day. Am I ready for today? Am I ready for my future? Have I stored things up? You have a good God. He's a just God. He offers forgiveness. And he also offers justice. And he would tell you and I, and he has told you and I very, very clearly, to not be that focused on this world, be focused on the next world, and to send forward commendations and awards, treasures and pleasures that will come. The moment you do that is the moment this life starts to make sense and this life works, and the moment that life even gets better. We're going to do a song right now that we did earlier. It just talks about the glory. Talk about the future of the glory of God. Now I just invite all of us to stand right now before we sing that song. Let me pray for us. God, we want to be on the future of your page, the future of your work. And I just trust that what's happened today is going to set a chain in motion for us to be doing things that just work and provide a return, eternal reward. Thank you for being clear with us and getting our eyes on the right prize. Amen.